Alright everyone, we've got a surplus of video titles right now. Actually, in the future, the fairly near future, because of tech censorship, I'm going to be branching out onto other platforms as well, so stay tuned. I'm going to diversify as much as possible because right now the internet is in flux. We've got to talk about polling right now, and I'm calling it the Trivergence. This is what you have within the Democratic primaries. You have three candidates who are now about even with each other. They're within the same small spread. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Buttigieg, respectively in second, third, and fourth place. Elizabeth Warren peaked out at almost Biden-esque levels. During one of his troughs, when he was down around 26, she was briefly ahead of him for like a day or two in the aggregate by less than a point. This was the highlight of her primary career. I don't expect her to climb back up, and this pretty much destroys her as a possible nominee. Elizabeth Warren was viable there for a while. She was on the rise. What happened, and this happened to Kamala too, she had her moment. People were awestruck and said, oh wow, finally, an anti-Biden. That's what they're casting around for. Somebody who can beat Biden. Somebody who is charismatic. Since then, she's petered out. When you do that, when you peak hard and then you start to decline, you don't recover from it. So she's on the decline. Sanders is stable. He's gravitated around in this 5-point spread for months and months and months, since summer. I don't see him going up or down long term. It's just like Biden. With the exception of one peak in the 40s, very early on, not long after he enters the race, after which his gaffes fuck him. He has been at the same level for the entire race, within a 5-point spread. It's basically his low is 26 and his high is arguably 32. Okay, a 7-point spread, roughly within that range. That's his floor. His floor is higher than anyone else's ceiling so far. We've got to keep that in mind when we go forward. The third is really a wild card, and that's Buttigieg. Now, I need at least another week's worth of polling numbers to look at because I suspect, and I'm going to be making a separate video on this, I suspect that his climb is over because of Bloomberg. That's just speculation. We'll see if it happens. Prediction. Buttigieg stalls out. He doesn't rise much further, and he probably goes back down because there's now a second non-far left anti-Biden candidate, which there wasn't. He was the only one. He was just starting to climb back up, and then Bloomberg gets involved. Bloomberg's now in 5th place. He's arguably at 4 or 5 points. He's taken the thunder away from Buttigieg by knocking him out of the news cycle and by being the older, more experienced, and far, far more rich version of Buttigieg. He's basically maneuvering himself into the same lane. Now, of course, I consider him far left, and on guns, he's the furthest left person there. By and large, though, he's not Bernie Sanders. He's not self-proclaiming socialism. He's not calling himself a progressive. He's just calling himself a liberal. Optically, optically, Michael Bloomberg is now in the center-left of the Democratic Party. Take from that what you will. Buttigieg may rise further. He may decline, or he may stabilize, and we'll see what happens. I can't predict that yet. I have to look at another week's worth or so of numbers. We have to see post-Bloomberg entering the race what happens. My suspicion is he falls off. He'll stabilize, he'll begin to waver, and he'll go back down, and Bloomberg then will be part of this. I'm calling it the Trivergence because you have three candidates within the same lane now. For a long time, it was the tale of Biden and two people fumbling around trying to outmaneuver each other to be at Biden's level. Now it's three different people, possibly now a fourth, in the same lane trying to shove one another under to see who will be the anti-Biden. Two of those individuals want to be ideologically different. That's Sanders and Warren. Two of them want to be ideologically similar and simply replace him because they think he's going to drop the ball because he keeps doing dumb shit. And those are Bloomberg and Buttigieg. This Trivergence is very, very interesting. What I can tell you is that if I had to favor any of them to maintain their composure, it was Bernie Sanders. He's been remarkably stable the whole time. I don't think that he'll win, because I don't see any evidence to suspect that he will climb further than that range he's been in. I also don't suspect that he'll drop out, because if the race remains crowded, Bernie Sanders, especially if Warren does poorly and begins to decline further, is the one reaping the benefit of having enough delegates to go into the convention. Biden gets it, but Sanders will have a mandate. His endorsement will actually matter this time around. It will matter what he believes, and it'll matter what he throws his weight behind. He will lean on Biden ideologically and say, I want you to take up these 2 issues for me or whatever, and I want you to appoint this person Secretary of State, or else I'm going to walk off and take my delegates with me, and I'm going to cause chaos at the convention. And somebody like Biden will be more than willing to parlay with them, more so than a Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was extremely egotistical, self-righteous, and self-serving. Biden is far more able to be conciliatory and to work with others. Again, he's demented. He's not going to win the general election because he's nuts, but he's more able to work with others. Except his own fans. When people ask him questions at a town hall event, that's the one exception. Then he's not willing to give them the time of day. He won't even answer honest questions anymore. The dude's fucked. The fact is that his own gaffes so far have not declined his support beyond his floor of 26. More than a quarter of Democrats believe that Biden is a good idea to run. That should terrify these people, by the way. I think it's more about the fact that they're afraid of the alternatives. They've been casting around for an alternative. Buttigieg almost sort of kind of made it. But now if Bloomberg has gotten in and stolen his thunder, you're never going to see that. Those two will grapple with one another. Buttigieg will say, well, he's too old. He's part of the billionaire class. Bloomberg will say, this kid doesn't know what he's doing. He has no experience. He can't possibly beat Trump. He's not electable. And they'll grapple with each other, and they'll prevent either of them from rising up to viability. This is the same as we see with Sanders and Warren. These two have been grappling with each other and maneuvering around in this far-left lane to the exclusion of ever competing with Joe Biden properly, because there's 2 of them. If you were to take even a minority of the support of one of them and put it behind the other, they'd be almost at Biden's level. They probably would be able to be competitive. Like Warren does fairly well in Iowa, Sanders does fairly well in New Hampshire. If they combined forces, the combined ticket would win both of those 2 states and coast to election. They would coast to the general and easily win the primaries. They would have the nomination. The problem is Warren's fans and Bernie's fans both think that their candidate is fundamentally better. Warren's fans think Bernie Sanders is too old. He's too openly embracing of the title socialist. Sanders fans think Warren debates like a fucking dish rag, which isn't entirely wrong, and she's basically just stolen his platform and divorced it of its true moniker in order to win over more neoliberal votes while actually being a corporate sellout. Both these groups of people are fundamentally right, by the way. They're both too far left. Elizabeth Warren is too big a liar. Sanders is too old. Buttigieg is probably too young. Bloomberg's too old and too wealthy for the Democratic Party. That leaves one person, Biden. All roads lead to Biden at this point. He'd have to have a major health issue, or I suppose if he keeps grinding himself down with gaffes, eventually it might take some wind out of his sails. We can't say for sure, but so far his fans have stubbornly clung to him. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses Iowa, but I wouldn't be surprised if he manages to swipe New Hampshire from out under Bernie Sanders, ending his campaign, and then go on to run 3 of the first 4 states. At that point, electability is taken off the table with regards to his candidacy, even if he makes mistakes. Going into Super Tuesday, it's going to be kind of obvious who's the front runner. You'll know by the end of Super Tuesday who's the clear front runner, if there is any, and who's 99% sure to win the nomination. You simply will. Think about it this way also. We've got to figure out what's going to happen. They're going to go into an election, to the end of the primaries, when they've got their convention going on, where multiple people will have still large fan bases. There will still be people who support the top tier candidates, no matter who's actually obviously going to be nominated. What kind of conciliatory gestures are given to them by the Democratic Party to keep their fans in line? We have to see that, because it's going to be damn hard to be conciliatory to Buttigieg while also wooing the Elizabeth Warren voting bloc. It's going to be very difficult indeed. It'll be interesting to see. Right now we have a trivergence of second-tier candidates. We have 3 second-tier candidates with the possibility one of them just got strangulated by the 5th place challenger, which is Michael Bloomberg. I'll make a separate video on that topic. I suspect that that is what will happen. That's going to shake the race up to some degree. That's about all. Peace out.